You're watching Cakeland. This is Cake News.
A Wichita airport employee in federal custody today after a plot to blow up mid-continent.
It's alleged that he planned to pull the trigger on the explosives himself and die in the explosion as a martyr.
Authorities say no one was ever in danger during this undercover operation.
That at no time was the airport perimeter breached, and that at no time was any citizen or member of the traveling public in any type of danger.
And good evening. That is our big story this afternoon. A national security crisis averted as a federal operation leads to the capture of a Wichita airport employee. That suspect with a plot to bomb Mid-Continent Airport. Kate Step-Ferris has been tracking this story all afternoon. She's live at Mid-Continent to explain how the operation all went down. Deb.
Susan, things definitely back to normal here at Mid-Continent Airport. This all began as a 6-month undercover investigation conducted by the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force, and it ended early this morning at 5:40 with the quick arrest of an airport employee, 58-year-old Terry Lowen.
FBI agents arrested 58-year-old Terry Lowen at 5:40 Friday morning as he tried to pull onto the tarmac at Wichita's Mid-Continent Airport. He was delivering a van loaded with what he believed were high explosives.
It's alleged that he planned to pull the trigger on the explosives himself and die in the explosion as a martyr.
The undercover investigation began in June when an FBI agent posing as a member of al-Qaeda began communicating with Lowen through email. A 21-page affidavit reveals Lowen wanted to be part of a violent jihad, a holy war. He wanted to kill as many people as possible. In one email, he said, "I can't see myself doing anything that involves killing children, but I understand it's a war and some of these brothers may have had their children killed by this country." He told the FBI agent just before Christmas would be the best time to execute the attack based on the number of people who would be boarding the aircraft and the number of people who would be in the terminal.
The threat was real, Terry Lowen was real, and Terry Lowen was committed to execute this plan, but I can assure you again, the public was not at risk at all.
And this morning, that undercover FBI agent met with Lowen. The two drove a van here to the airport with what Lowen thought was a van full of explosives, and that's when the FBI arrested him. As you can imagine, a number of people, including this entire city, in shock over all of this. Cake's Lily Wu has been talking with family members of the suspect, and Lily, I can imagine what they are thinking right now.
Well, Deb, they've definitely been in shock over this entire news story. They're very much in shock, but they did not want to be on camera today. They did release a statement that I will read a little bit later, but these are some things that we've learned about 58-year-old Terry Lowen. Now, the 58-year-old worked as an avionics technician for Beechcraft. He did have access to Mid-Continent Airport. Now, documents show he had converted to Islam and said he had been studying subjects like jihad and martyrdom operations. Now, the 21-page affidavit also shows a letter excerpt dated on Wednesday for a family member, and it says, "My only explanation is that I believe in jihad for the sake of Allah. Fact is, most Muslims in this country will condemn what I have done. I expect to be called a terrorist, which I am, a psychopath, and a homicidal maniac." Now, authorities say that he did act alone.
We have no indication that the defendant was involved or working with any members of any religious community in Wichita, and his actions in no way reflect anyone else in our community.
Now, a family member had this statement to say: "He was a great man, never hurt anyone, and was to himself. He was a good father, and I never knew it would come to this." Now, Beechcraft also released a statement. They did confirm that he was an employee of Beechcraft. They said upon learning of the incident, the company suspended his employment pending the outcome of the continuing investigation. Now, the company is working closely with federal authorities as they complete their investigation. We'll continue tracking more about Terry Lowen and bring you more updates as we get them. Thank you.
All right, Lily, thanks so much. And as you can imagine, people here at the airport, some had no idea of what was going on. Investigators have been out here throughout the day, including drug dogs, that sort of thing. And the investigation continues with the search for evidence continuing. Cakesville White has been out at the airport all afternoon talking to travelers. And Phil, what are you hearing?
Well, Deb, as you mentioned, most passengers had no idea this was even going on until I asked them about it. It didn't affect any travel plans this afternoon here at the airport. In fact, Midcontinent's website shows most departures from the airport on time this evening. There was one 5:10 p.m. flight to Chicago that had to be canceled, but that was the only major change here this afternoon, and there's nothing to indicate it had anything to do with this arrest. Now, I spoke with a gentleman who was supposed to be on that flight. His name is Eric Alexander. He was flying back to Chicago. He was able to catch an earlier flight, and other than a couple extra police and a police dog working around the airport, he says nothing seemed out of place to him.
I was lucky to get bumped up onto an earlier flight, but yeah, other than the dogs and the police, I didn't notice anything. Used to a lot of security in O'Hare, but other than that, it was pretty normal.
Now, other passengers I spoke with also said it seemed like a normal day at the airport, and they didn't know anything about that busted bomb plot until I asked them about it. Again, everything moving as normally as possible here this afternoon. In fact, Deb, earlier this afternoon, there was a group of elementary school children here singing Christmas carols.
Well, that's good to know. All right, Phil, thanks so much. And Terry Lowen is in federal court. He was arraigned just about an hour ago, so only a few hours after his arrest. Cake's Jason Tarr is live at the federal courthouse with more on that arraignment. Jason.
We just got out of federal court here behind me just minutes ago, and that's where Lowen was arraigned, just within the last hour here. Now, they didn't allow any still photography or video cameras in the courtroom, so our Nathan Christner actually drew what was going on inside the courtroom. And right now, I want to flip this page here to show you what Lowen looks like in the courtroom today. A full head of hair, beard, glasses, and he was wearing a black zip-up hoodie. He's a shorter white man, and he answered all of the judge's questions today in a deep-toned voice, respectfully, clearly, and the majority of this hearing was spent making sure that Lowen understood all of the charges against him. He's facing 3 big charges, including that one attempting to use a weapon of mass destruction. What's next from here? Well, next week, on Wednesday, the United States will present this case to the grand jury. On Friday, Lowen has a preliminary hearing and a detention hearing. That detention hearing is to decide where he will remain during the proceedings of this case. Again, he will be in court Friday for his preliminary hearing that's scheduled for 11 a.m. right back here at the federal courthouse. Deb?
Investigators who were involved in all of this want to remind everyone that terrorism can happen in the heartland. They talked a little bit about that at a news conference today. So let's go over all of this again just to reiterate what has happened. Authorities arrested 58-year-old Terry Lowen this morning around 5:40 after an undercover operation. He was an airport employee. He had been tracking the layout of Midcontinent Airport and flight times for months. He's been on the FBI's watch list since this summer. Nobody, the FBI reiterates, was in any danger while any of this was going on. So again, a Wichita man arrested for planning a bomb plot here at Wichita's Midcontinent Airport. FBI confirming at no time was anyone in any danger. The explosives that Lowen thought he had in that van this morning were not real explosives. Remember to keep it on Cake as we continue following this breaking story. And we, of course, will have much more coming up tonight on Cake News at 5 and 6. Live at Midcontinent Airport, Deb Ferris, Cake News.
Tracking inconvenient weather where you live. Cake First Alert.
Oh, we've had some sunshine out west today, but clouds here in the central and eastern portions of the state, and a few sprinkles and patchy light rainfall showing up on Cake's Doppler HD. All of this is very light in intensity and liquid, but off to the east of El Dorado, a little bit of light rainfall here, and it is, in fact, moving off to the north and east at around 20 miles per hour. So let's put it into motion for you here, and we can see that batch moving off to the north and east, moving into east central and northeastern portions of Butler County, over into southwestern Greenwood Glenwood County. Again, very light in intensity, and the rest of the precipitation also liquid up in the northeastern portions of our state, coming to an end. Temperatures are well above freezing everywhere. 45 here in Wichita, 46 in Hutch, 48 in Salina. We're going to keep this precipitation in the liquid variety at least through about midnight. I think after midnight, just about the time it's wanting to come to an end, it could briefly become mixed with some freezing rain or sleet. Anything that falls will be light. We are going to have colder temps, though, to at least start the weekend. More forecast details here in just a bit.
All right. Thanks a lot, Ben. New at 4 now. Hutchinson High School head coach Randy Dreiling is leaving. He announced to his team that he is taking a job with another school. Dreiling is resigning as both head football coach and physical education instructor. Cake's Shane Ewing joins us now to explain what prompted his sudden departure. Shane.
Well, yeah, that's right, Susan. Coach Dreiling says he really felt he had done all he could do at Hutchinson, and it was just a matter of time, a time to move on. After 7 state championships and 17 seasons, he asked himself how much more there really was to accomplish. And that question led him to St. Thomas Aquinas, who Dreiling said offered him their head coaching job with a clear vision for the program, which impressed Dreiling, and after 3 weeks of consideration, he accepted the job this morning. He says the community of Hutchinson has been fully supportive, not only over this decision, but over the past 17 seasons, and that's what makes this so tough.
It's going to be really hard when I, slam the door and drive east for the last time, and you have to bring up stuff like that really hurts. But yeah, it's going to be tough closing that chapter of our lives.
A soft spot for the community, indeed. When Dreiling took over the Salthawks program, they were on a 26-game losing streak, and he turned them into one of the best teams in the state. Officials at Hutchinson say they're beginning a coaching search immediately. Cake Sports' Jake Schlegel has been in Hutchinson today tracking this story. He spoke with the school principal and a player about what's next for Hutch football, so we'll bring that to you tonight on Cake News at 6. Susan?
All right, thanks a lot, Shane. The government's agreement to a new budget plan could affect one Kansas college. We're going to have details on that coming up. Cake News at 4. And next, 2 people are wounded after a gunman opens fire at a Colorado high school. The suspect, no stranger to the students.
This is Cake News at 4 with Larry Hatterberg, Deb Ferris, and meteorologist Ben Pringle with your Cake First Alert forecast. Always tracking, always alerting, always protecting. Cake News.
We are tracking a developing story this afternoon. At least 2 people have been shot at Arapahoe High School. That is in Centennial, Colorado. 1 student remains in critical condition at a Denver hospital. It's unclear how that student was hurt. A gunman opened fire this afternoon and was found dead from a gunshot wound. Area schools put on lockdown during this situation. This happening 14 years after 2 high schoolers killed 12 people at Columbine High School, which is in the same school district as Arapahoe. Violence erupts at a Denver Broncos game for the 2nd time in 3 weeks. This time, 4 people are stabbed. Trouble developed in a Mile High Stadium parking lot shortly after San Diego beat the Broncos last night. 1 person in critical condition. Denver police have 1 suspect in custody. It is not clear what led to the fight.
Yeah, so no word at all on motivation. I don't know if this was game related or what caused this. Certainly after we are able to interview several witnesses, and even if the suspects, we go through with those interviews at some point, if those occur, we'll have a better idea as to what precipitated this after the game tonight.
Police say they have located at least 3 victims who are in the hospital. Those victims are responsive. However, authorities believe there could be at least 1 more victim who has not yet come forward. Police believe they have the only suspect in custody. Many Republicans have sharply criticized the bipartisan budget deal. Democrats are within reach of gaining enough support from Republicans to overcome a filibuster threat next week. Now, that means the bill already passed in the House will be 1 step away from the president's signature before Christmas. We will continue to keep you updated on this budget deal on our webpage, cake.com. Funding for the next phase of construction of a national research lab at Kansas State University is closer after the U.S. House passed that bipartisan budget agreement. If the Senate goes along with the deal in the coming days, $404 million will be allotted to continue construction of the facility in Manhattan. Now, this lab will replace Plum Island in New York and conduct research on deadly animal pathogens. Friday the 13th may be an unlucky day for some, but later it could be worth millions and millions to 1 lucky person.
Now, the most accurate forecast in Kansas, here's Kate First Alert meteorologist Ben Pringle.
Well, we had some sunshine across parts of western Kansas today, but pretty much stayed socked in with clouds here in the central and eastern counties and a little bit of patchy light rain and sprinkles. Not so much in the city or county, but patchy light rain and sprinkles off to the east of Wichita. All very light in intensity, but put a little track on this batch here from El Dorado eastward. It's moving off to the north and east at about 20 miles per hour, and looks like that'll put it in Roselia in a couple of minutes. Reese about 7 minutes away. Ivanpah around, well, it's about 20 minutes from now. Again, moving to the north and east at about 20 miles per hour. Other patchy light rain and sprinkle areas there through north central portions of Cowley County. Extending off to the east into southeastern Kansas. Precipitation just about over in the far northeastern portions of our state. Western Kansas is rain-free right now. In fact, with some sunshine, 46 in Great Bend and Hutch, 45 here in Wichita, 48 in Salina. Chilliest numbers off in the eastern portions of our state. Although north winds have taken over out west, and those north winds will be moving through Wichita here in the next hour or so. Gusty north winds at that on the backside. Again, light precipitation all in the liquid variety here in the eastern portions of the state. And that'll be the case this evening. But I think after midnight, some of this could become mixed with a little patchy light sleet up here in the north central portions of our state. And we could even get a little light mix here in the south central counties. It looks like by midnight, just about the time the precipitation ends, could make for a bit of a slippery start early tomorrow morning, though. We'll call it 44 here in Wichita by 5 p.m., 1 degree cooler by 6, still into the 40s by 7 p.m. this evening. Again, the below freezing temperature is really not expected until after midnight. Teens in the northwest, low 20s here in the south central part of the state for overnight lows. And it looks like, again, the precipitation will be wrapping up really late tonight, but some clouds could be in here to start the day Saturday. Again, some patchy slick spots, a remote possibility, but very cold right through the day, even though we'll get some afternoon sunshine. Temperatures jumping for Sunday on into Monday with highs into the low 50s. And looks like we're going to top out in the low, or I should say upper 40s to low 50s into at least the first half of next week. North central Kansas, Salina, Hayes, and Great Bend looks like you'll be much colder again Saturday. A little light precipitation to start the day maybe, but sunshine back by afternoon, and then warmer temperatures returning to start next week. Garden City, Dodge, and Liberal, all of southwestern Kansas, still in the mid-40s. It looks like tomorrow, sunshine throughout. Into the 50s for you folks to start next week. Been a while since I've been able to say that. Goodland and Colby in the northwest. Looks like you'll have highs in the low 40s tomorrow. Again, 50s for you folks as well to start next week. Enjoy those warmer temperatures while they're here. All indications are much colder temps will return by next weekend.
Are you kidding me?
I'll be back.
Just in time for Christmas.
Okay, there you go.
Thanks a lot, Ben. We'll be right back. Friday the 13th could be a lucky day for someone. The Mega Millions jackpot now at $425 million, and the drawing is tonight. The person who buys the winning ticket would cash in on the second largest jackpot in Mega Millions history, the fifth largest jackpot ever. But of course, odds are you won't win. In fact, your chances of winning the revamped Mega Millions has actually dropped from 1 in 176 million to roughly 1 in 259 million. That means it would be more likely for an amateur golfer to hit a hole-in-one on consecutive par 3 holes that you would be able 370 times, okay. Then you would be 370 times as likely to give birth naturally to quadruplets, or 1,369 times as likely to date a supermodel. So there you have it. Cake is trying to build a mountain of toys for children over a couple of weeks. Now you can help by bringing in new unwrapped toys to any Wichita area Papa John's, Genghis Grill are right here to the Cake Studios. They'll be collected through this coming Monday. Then the Salvation Army will distribute them to deserving children. We have more information that can be found on our web channel, cake.com. Just click on Cake Cares. Coming up on Cake News at 5, of course, we're going to continue to track today's big story. A Wichita man arrested in a plot to bomb Mid-Continent Airport. We're going to have live team coverage of the terror plot and how it was foiled. News at 5. Okay, we want to do a recap now of our big story today. A man is arrested after an undercover operation foils a fake terror plot at Wichita's Mid-Continent Airport. Here's what we know so far. Authorities arrested 58-year-old Terry Lowen this morning around 5:40 after an undercover operation. He was an airport employee He had been tracking the layout of the airport and flight times for months now. He'd been on the FBI watch list since this past summer. Nobody was in any danger while this undercover operation was going on. Keep it on Cake News for continuing coverage of this Wichita terror plot. Coming up on Cake News at 5. And that's it for Cake News at 4. See you in a half an hour.
For up-to-the-minute news and weather, stay connected to Cake News with Facebook, Twitter, and Cake.com. Always tracking, always alerting, always protecting. Cake News.